So that brings me to another point, which I think is important to bring about on this feast of Pope St. Pius X, and that is this whole question of our bishops. Many of you have heard rumors about the bishops getting older. Well, that's not a rumor, that's a truth. And then you've also heard that bishops are to be consecrated. Well, we know this will happen at some point when it's determined by my superiors. But I want to remind you of what Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre wanted by starting this foundation under St. Pius X and its continuation. He called it Operation Survival. In his sermon for the consecration of the 4 bishops on June 30th, 1988, Archbishop Lefebvre explained very clearly the state of necessity. I told you earlier that there's a crisis in the church. We know this. There are many who deny that and saying that there's really no crisis. He said it was a state of necessity and still exists now. It was a consequence of the state of necessity that he stated, and this is a quote of his. I think it is my duty to provide the means of doing that which I shall call Operation Survival. If I had made this deal with Rome by continuing with the agreements we had signed and by putting them into practice, I would have performed Operation Suicide. There was no choice. We must live. And unable to confer upon them the power of jurisdiction, Archbishop Lefebvre was nevertheless able to confer the fullness of the power of holy orders so they could fulfill an episcopal ministry, to give confirmation to your children, to be able to confer ordinations in various seminaries. These are the 2 sacraments that the 4 bishops at that time consecrated have constantly administered ever since, thus guaranteeing the continuation or continuing of the work of tradition of the Society of St. Pius X, and ensuring that it would never be watered down, absorbed by, or taken over by the modernist infiltration in the church. And the Archbishop himself stated on June 30th, 1988, when God calls me, this will certainly not be long, from whom would these seminarians receive the sacrament of orders? From conciliar bishops who, due to their doubtful intentions, confer doubtful sacraments? This is not possible. However, the function of the bishops of the Society of St. Pius X is not limited to the simple administration of the 2 sacraments of confirmation and holy orders. There are many pontifical blessings and consecrations. As we know, many of our churches recently are being consecrated by the bishops. The consecrations in the church's liturgy are reserved to bishops, many of those blessings, and these they regularly perform, such as the consecration of holy oils used for the sacraments of baptism, confirmation, holy orders, and extreme unction, the consecration of chalices, altar stones in churches, and the consecration of holy virgins. Moreover, through the reception of the fullness of the power of holy orders, the bishops receive a radical power to teach and to govern the flock of Christ, even before a special portion is entrusted to them by ordinary jurisdiction, which can be only done by the Supreme Pontiff. However, although the Society bishops have not received this jurisdiction, they still retain their responsibility for the Catholic Church of which they are bishops. Pope Pius XII stated in the encyclical Fidei Donum of 1957, a Catholic bishop is a successor of the apostles, jointly responsible for the common good of the church. Bishop de Castromeyer explained likewise when he said, my presence here at this ceremony is caused by a duty of conscience, that of making a profession of Catholic faith in front of the whole church, because the conservation of the priesthood and the Holy Mass is at stake, and in spite of the requests and pressures of many, I am here in order to accomplish my duty to make a public profession of faith. And as we know, he supported the Archbishop in this action. Many other things could be said, but I wanted to bring that up again on this feast of Pius X, because again, there are rumors that are going around, and obviously the rumors like these are not just empty. There is a plan by the Society of St. Pius X to eventually increase the number of bishops, and we want to know why. For the good of the faith, for the necessity of the faith, for the good of the church, for the good of the priesthood and the Mass.